Hi, hello everyone. Still some people getting in. Liz, I don't know if I'm going to do the intro or you are. Okay, I guess it's me. So, hello everyone. Just about to start the session. Thank you all for your interest in this topic of managing teams. I come from a technical background, and for some years I've worked in the software industry, and then I built a company specialized in behavior performance, in communication, leadership, time management, all sorts of emotional management, team coaching, and so since then we've had a lot of customers in the software industry. So today, our goal for today is we're going to talk about leading technical teams, what sort of challenges we might encounter there, and we're going to for a behavioral approach on that side. I imagine that most of you will have all sorts of processes and systems to get the most out of the team's efficiency, and today I would really like for us to reflect on some major emotional challenges that really can make a big difference in what the team can deliver, because they're not exactly a box, and they have some random behavior apparently, and so I would like us to just take the time to reflect on what's that about, what are the main challenges around that. So as we let everyone in, a little reflection on why I think we've been so successful in bringing this to the software arena and to the technical arena. Well, I think technical people are really eager to learn anything that's laid out in a rather structured way. So if you bring someone from psychology or someone from the social arena, that sometimes that seems a bit too sketchy for us engineers to just make some rules about cause and effect. And so I really think that technical people really get this when this is explained in a structured way. And so that's the challenge for today. I would like us to have some space for reflection, and I would like us to do that in a way that's really structured and doesn't seem like dark science, but it's kind of some rules, some framework of cause and effect that can bring a new understanding on how people behave and how we can lead them to have the sort of behaviors that are really productive and really in line with what we want to see happen. So we have 3 hours. I suppose nobody thinks that in the end of these 3 hours we're going to be experts in leadership. I think we can all get that 3 hours will enable us to visit some fundamentals, maybe play a bit around that, but I don't think this will have a tremendous impact on your leadership. But I think your homework should be to take something from here and just try to bring it to your own game. Now, you are the expert on your team. That's really important to know. So my job here is to lay down some fundamentals that you can then adapt. And your homework is just to bring some couple of insights you might have and say, hey, I want to play with this. I want to test this out. And I want to see how this plays out on my team and what difference does it make. So about behavioral change, and as other people are joining, about behavioral change. You will not change behavior unless something that I say challenges your map of reality. So we behave in the way that makes sense for us. And what makes sense for us is about the map we have on how things work. So if I change your map, then you will effortlessly, new things will occur you to do. So this is not a training where I will lay down some practices that you have to discipline yourself in putting into practice. I will challenge your map of reality. That's my goal for today. And so whatever openness you can bring to the table in terms of rethinking what you already know, I think that will really make the biggest difference, and you'll best profit from your time here with me. So about some minor rules around this workshop, I strongly encourage you to turn on your camera. Unless you have major bandwidth challenges, I really encourage you to turn on the camera because it's really different for me to be talking to black squares or to be talking with people and seeing your faces. We're talking about emotions, and how can I address emotions if I don't see your faces? It's really challenging for me. So if you can help me out on that matter, and just for us to have a human touch around here, that will be really, really cool, and I would love that to happen. Now, because we are some dozens of people, if you remind yourselves to be muted while you are not speaking, that will also be a wise thing to know. I expect nowadays this is a rather silly comment to make, but just as a reminder, just try to keep yourself muted. And I imagine, I didn't ask this properly, but I imagine that you can unmute yourself. Okay, can you just check that just as a test? Can you unmute yourselves?
Testing. Can you hear me?
Thank you, Tiago. Thank you for that.
Hello.
So you can unmute yourselves.
Hi.
You are the owner of that. Just pay attention that you have that button on your side. Use it wisely. Now, in terms of interaction, I will try to use breakout rooms for us to talk with each other and not having such a boring just one-sided version of me talking for 3 hours. And so I'll just test how breakout rooms will work depending on the number of people. In my experience, if we have a lot of people, it can be a little slow to bring everyone to the rooms and back, but we'll test that out. And if it doesn't work, I'll figure it out. And in terms of questions and comments, you have a raise hand button that you can access through, if you see participants button on the bottom of your screen, and you will have everyone, and that's something you can do, that's raise hand, or you can even use reactions to do that, or you can just unmute yourself and interrupt me if nothing works. It's fine, let's keep this interactive. So some of the exercise will be on the comments. I will ask you, hey, can you just share what your challenges are, and I'll expect to read something on the chat. If you are new to Zoom, which is highly unlikely, if you're new to Zoom, there's a chat button in the middle of the screen below. And if you're using a Portuguese version, it might be called Bate-Papo or something like that. So as I ask you to also participate, I'll be reading your comments. So once again, for everyone that's just joined in, if you can turn on your camera, that will be really valuable for the workshop, and especially when you are working with your colleagues in the breakout rooms. So rules are there. Testing my iPad, my flip chart. Let me share some content and let's see how it goes. Just before I got in, it asked me to upload my software, my Zoom software. So I got a little scared that last minute updates are not my style, but So this is a test. Can you see this? I think so. I can also see this. So very well.
Yeah,
we have a screen. So first things, what are we talking here? What do you want us to talk here? What should we address? And for that, I really like for you to take a minute and think, what are my main challenges when I'm leading my team? Because I assume most of you will be team leaders, otherwise it won't be in a workshop called leading teams or whatever it's called. So I assume you lead a team. So I would like you to just think, what are my main challenges when I'm leading my team? What would be most valuable to get from here today, from this time spent with this guy? So let us test breakout rooms just from the start. We will create around 4 to 5 people per room, and just take 5 minutes and prepare to then share in the chat what were the main challenges that you came up with. So 5 minutes from that, if you haven't been in breakout rooms in Zoom, which is also highly unlikely, then you will have to accept my invitation to be in a breakout room. You'll be in a similar interface like this one, but only with 4 or 5 people, depending on how many of you accept the challenge. So see you soon. In 5 minutes, I will close the breakout rooms. You'll be automatically transported back into this main room, and we'll have a chat about that. Okay, thank you so much. What are your biggest challenges in leading your team at the moment? Have fun. So we have around 50 participants, and it's already a bit slow to get them into the rooms. I imagine that if the number goes up, we might face a challenge of software efficiency there, but let's see how it goes. I only plan using breakout rooms for 3 or 4 times during this session, so it should be okay to
yeah, actually you sold out the available tickets, so we have 300 registrations for your workshop. I don't expect sorry about the noise. I don't expect everyone to come because it's a free event that happens, but I expect them to go up a little bit more.
Okay, fair enough. We'll test it, and if it doesn't go well, we'll just find a solution. We can always use the chat room to have the feedback from the exercises. Very well. Let me assign someone to the room. Many people joining in. I kind of started the exercise just to give a bit more time for people to join. Before I dive into content. Three minutes left. A lot of people just joining in. We're doing some exercise. So 2 minutes left. And chat is hello, hello, Barbara. Welcome. And 1 minute left to close all rooms. Okay, all participants have now been given 60 seconds to end up the discussion. Will be automatically transported back to the main room if they don't do themselves. 30 seconds. Time's up. So welcome back, everyone. People are still being virtually transported to the rooms. Hope they don't get any injuries. Very well, here we are. So can you please share on the chat what came up in the rooms, because I wasn't able to visit all the rooms. So what came up? What are the main challenges? And for those of you who've just joined in, the exercise was, at the moment, when you are leading your team, what are the main challenges? What would you like to be better at? What do you face as the big topics that we would love to get some insights around for here today? So manage expectations, Rodrigo says, very well. What else? What else? Manage expectations. Handling different perspectives, for sure. We are human, we have subjective experience of the world and multiple perspectives. And keeping it fresh, very interesting. Keeping efficient communication. Efficient communication is what we use to let everyone have everyone on the same page. And if it's not efficient, it's too much of a hassle. Authority versus leadership. Yeah, because we might be technically an authority and don't really be seen as a leader. Expectations versus motivations, team motivated. The main challenge is to keep people in the same team more than 3 years. 3 years, a very ambitious number, I should say, in your market, but let's keep ambitious. Create a healthy environment and high attrition rates. So the retention is a problem. The attrition. We have a very fast turnover market going on, and we should prepare for that. How to create new habits in the team, good ones preferably. Keeping high motivational levels, especially in long-term projects. Managing expectations, global and individual objectives. Paycheck main focus instead of the good company environment. Very well. I think we are cool. Sarah, can I ask you to let people in as they enter the waiting room, because we have still people joining in. Thank you for that. My way of addressing these challenges for you today, and because I know you are experts in the process, will be more in the emotional side of it, in the behavioral side of it. So as I mentioned before, I've worked in the software industry for some time, and then I changed my arena and I went for the behavioral. I put up a company called Mind for Time that goes, it's a behavioral consultant, a performance consultant that works with a lot of software industry clients. Now, what I've seen so far is that these people, we really get it when we explain behavioral in a rather structured way. So here you have an engineer explaining behavior in a rather squared way, if you want, which I think for me was really insightful to think that it's not magic. It's not something that you cannot replicate. It's not a random thing. It's something that if you can see the gravitational force behind it, it's not such a mystery that things fall. Okay, so we are today into looking at what are the main drives, the main forces behind the behavior, and that can really help you. And help you what? Help you do what? And I think you all have two major goals, I expect. So let me use a drawing for this that really helps me think and communicate, and hopefully will also help you follow up my speech without being so boring. And so what I think is that we want a couple of goals. We want people to achieve outcomes. So we have to present results. Things have to happen. Software must be produced. Projects must get progress on them. But we also have the goal of developing, of capacitating the team to be more autonomous. So we are not only looking for effectiveness, we are looking for growing capacity. And they are kind of mutually exclusive, not completely, but a bit mutually exclusive. So if I have a leader completely focused on outcomes, I know he will not have available time to develop the team as he or she should. And so when there's too much pressure on the project management side to get things faster, we noticed that in the end of the year, when we are going to measure how human capital has been developed and how much more the team can deliver now that it could in the beginning of the year, we noticed that leaders were too busy making things happen to be able to really coach the team to develop. And so you will have probably these two goals yourselves. You want people to be more effective, but you also want people to be better and fast, because they won't last long. Now, this reminds me that my job as a parent, and my job as a parent, as I see it, is about bringing safety to my kids. So just don't let them die in the streets or fall from such a high balcony that they just really injure themselves. But also, I want them to bring some autonomy. I want them to be autonomous in a lot of stuff, because one day I won't be there and they have to just figure things out for themselves. So if I can train them to do that, that can be really cool. But I have a quarrel with my wife, because I think safety is not so important as autonomy, and she thinks kind of there's time for autonomy, and so she rather have them really safe. And so it's like your boss that will look into short-term goals, outcomes, or a big longer-term goals, and say, hey, I want these people to be more proactive. Now, as as you kind of put the system going in terms of your agile processes, in terms of how you communicate and how you meet, how many times, and your project management best practice, the concern about better specification, and all sorts of techniques like pair programming or really cool code review and debugging system, or agile cycles, stand-up meetings, dashboards, Kanbans, whatever. So that's your domain. That I'm not going there. That's your scene. That's your expertise. Okay, you have been putting in practice a lot of processes, and there's a lot of literature and around that. I want you to focus on one singular aspect that underlies all those methodologies. That is, when we think that someone is a square and will behave in a certain way, and then they don't, what's that about? So I'm looking not into building the greatest system, I'm looking into understanding the human side of the system that then will kind of derails and is not really replicable in the way that we would like it to. So when people don't follow processes, when people react individually, and one is motivated by what I said, the other one just didn't like it at all, and then they don't say what they mean, and they say yes when they should have no, and I said, do we have time to do this? And they say yes, and they don't, and then they don't deliver, and why did they say they didn't have time? And they don't ask for help when they need it, and they keep blocked for themselves for so long, and then they get defensive if you go to criticize the code, and then, well, those moods vary wildly. It seems that nothing is replicable. That's what we're here to talk about, is how is the human side kind of derailing the best systems you might want to put in place. Now, to understand that, we have to take a look at some fundamentals of human behavior. So why do we move? That's my main question. Why do we move? Why do we move? Now, why do we work? Also a great question. Why do we work? You say, well, we work to pay our bills. Yeah, that's what someone was complaining about. Like, I would like people to be really motivated, not for the paycheck, okay? And so there's a big difference between external compliance, which is, well, he's my leader, and because that's what's on the chart, and so I kind of have to do what he says, but I don't really recognize the authority or the expertise or even the leadership skills, or I'm doing things because I believe, and I have an internal commitment, and the drive is within me. So why do we move is the big question. First of all, we have to answer, and that question is answerable in two very, very important ways. So if I'm this guy and now I'm going to move forward from a situation A to a situation B, well, that's because I have some perception that B is better than A. Okay, so when I move, I'm always driven by a sense that if I get there, there will be a compensation. And I'll just put money back to represent, but it's not just money. Money hardly motivates. Money can keep people in a job, but doesn't make people wake up in the morning with the drive and energy and motivation to just do great coding or great projects or save the world. That there's no correlation whatsoever between money and intrinsic motivation. Money is just what it's needed. It's just an external compliance feature of the system. So I want you to be really good at distinguishing a couple of these two concepts that I'm drawing here. One we'll call value. There's a perception of a benefit, a value that really is worth my effort. And the other one is what we'll call a finish line, a sort of a vision, if you will, sort of where can I get to? And if you, by the end of these 3 hours, you really know the difference between these, then you'll have a major update on your leadership skills. Okay, so we'll talk a bit about how that applies and how that materializes in your day-to-day way of thinking about motivating people. Now, about value, or what could be other words for value? Give me in the chat other words for value. It could be value. What could be the drive for me to go somewhere? I might perceive value in there. What else? What else? Status, great. Fulfillment, great. That's really powerful. Recognition, yes, perfect. What else? What else? So let's look at those in a structured way. So I'm moving to somewhere where there's something done, there's a successful project delivered, there's something, and I'm going there because first, okay, let's get rid of this because I need a paycheck, I need to pay my bills. Yeah, fair enough, but that's probably not where the juice is. So I will need, as you said, I'm looking for a sense of usefulness. I want to be useful. I want my talent to be used for something. And so a very important drive is, well, I could be here doing nothing, or I could just be here doing almost nothing and have a great paycheck, but I'd really rather help out. I could really enjoy the sense that I'm being used for something, and for something I believe in, for something that helps someone, a contribution that's really valuable. So we bring a drive, putting our talent at service of something. Now, we also, as you said, we also want to prove our worthiness. So there's a sense of identity or status that implies some recognition. We want to be respected for what we know, for what we do, and we want to be heard. And so there's a status kind of drive to be out of I'm a nobody and I'm somebody. Okay, and so we want to move into the direction of, hey, I'm doing this because then this will have certain visibility within this arena, or will just prove my colleagues that I'm worth it, or something like that. Of proof to myself is more typical. Now, there's also another drive that's really important and sometimes overlooked, which is I want to belong somewhere. I want to belong to a clan. I want to belong to a set of people that kind of think things the same way as I do. I want to belong to a group of people that have the same interests, or have the same language, or have the same. And so there's a clan effect. So there's a tribe effect. So I want to belong to that community. Well, why would I want to belong to the community? Any ideas? Where does that come from? Where would I want to belong to a community? What's that about? Am I not self-sufficient? I have my paycheck, I have my house, I have my car. Why would I value the community? Any ideas on that? Okay, well, I want to belong to the community because neurobiologically, we come from an evolution. We are social beings, exactly. As human beings, we want to connect with others because we are social beings. That's really cool. We are sheep in the way that we flock, we group, because we have intrinsic programming that says that if you are alone, you will die. Okay? When I was writing my third book, and I was having it revised by a neuroscientist in the social arena, and I had some expressions saying, Well, it originates from our neurobiological inheritance that if we were alone in a very hostile atmosphere, it would be much danger. And he said, no, Gonçalo, you would die. If you were expelled from a group because you misbehaved, you would die within 1 day, period. So it's not just like it's cool to hang around each other. We have imprinted in our brain that if you are not accepted, you will die. So it's not a minor detail as a leader to pay attention to how people are really engaging with the rest of the team and feeling they belong to the group. It's not a minor detail. It's a super important aspect of attrition and performance. Now, what else? We also want to grow. We don't want to be static in our talent. We want to grow. So if we are moving towards projects where we will learn, they will stimulate us cognitively, where we will be on the edge of our abilities, that has a major impact because we want to learn, we want to get better, and that really makes a difference. Now, so major aspects of value. Now, how does that map into our reality? How is the brain mapping this drive into our daily lives? And I think even if you think about software evolution, how we change specifications, you know that some time ago, we wouldn't use user stories. We wouldn't use use cases. That was not the way things were built. And as we move towards the importance of a purpose of the software, how it will be used, we are moving towards a perception of value. Okay. Now, you as a leader might want to take into account that within a software industry, and mainly within big companies, sometimes your technical guys will be so far away from the customer that will almost lose track of how is this going to help someone. And so it's really useful for you as a leader to bring that sense of utility, that sense of, hey, this guy works here in this place, he's a finance guy, he spends all his life. You want to check him out? Let's go to his desk. Let's visit the customer. I'm not saying you can do that in a daily basis, but I'm just saying don't disconnect what people are doing from how it will be used, because that's a really common mistake within the software arena. Now, what else? Give them clients feedback very closely. That's also one of the easy improvement opportunities most of us have, is do we bring the review, the client's comments directly into the development, just enhancing this vector. Now, also, are you creating a culture within our team that really cares? Because if I care about how people perceive themselves to belong to a group of people that really have their back, are we creating this arena, or are we too busy? Are we creating this environment, or are we too busy just making things happen? And that's just a minor detail. How do you do that? And how do you bring that to the table? Okay. So value. Okay. Now let me address the finish line, or if you want, vision. Now, how is value different from vision? Isn't it the same thing? It's about the goal, right? The goal is the goal. Well, I don't use the term goal because there's a goal behind the goal, and then you don't know if you're talking of the goal beyond the goal or just the goal. So you want to score a goal to win the game. So what's the game? Okay. And you want to win the game because of what? And so the why question can just go very far away. And so when I come to the vision, I'm talking about something really different. I'm not talking about why we are moving. I'm talking about how clear it is, the direction where we want to get at. So I don't know, has any of you ever ran the marathon? Just by the way of raise hands, has anyone ran the marathon? So I usually I go to see Porto Marathon just in the end because they are so tired, and sometimes I even play a bit with the motivational tricks, and I bring a board saying only a short training now, like 5 kilometers from, because they do 10 kilometers training very regularly. So 5K, come on, this is a small training now. So, and can you imagine what would happen if just as you were arriving in the last kilometer or last 500 meters, the finish line wasn't clear, was like, hey, where's the finish line? It was more or less around here. More or less around here. I'm dying. I can barely keep running, and you don't know where it is. And it's very impressive as they reach the last 50 meters, they kind of push harder. It's really cool to see what's going on their minds. They are super tired. The muscles are just running out. No more energy. The bones and the articulations are just completely ruined. They are suffering like hell. And in the last 50 meters, they just put a smile and, what's that about? Well, it's about finish line. Finish line is a very, very important concept. You don't have finish line, you're lacking motivation. You need finish line. And finish line in many business environments, finish lines look kind of like this. See, there's the finish line. Let's put some flags here. So this is the chess finish line. And then you think it's fixed, but it has little wheels. And as people are almost there, it kind of starts moving. You say, almost there, you're almost there, you're almost there, you're almost there. Now, we know that in the software industry, we kind of try to break that cycle, and that's what Agile comes, and that's how we would have projects with never-ending wish lists, and now we kind of have more Agile approaches with finish lines each sprint. But even so, it's never too much to bring a finish line into the table. So are you bringing a finish line into the table? Why is that so important? Now, finish line is different from the value because it's where you see. And now the part of your brain that really brings the importance of why you are running the marathon is not the part of the brain that is calculating the effort needed to reach the finish line. It's another part of the brain. It's really different. So as a leader, you might want to keep people really motivated to run the marathon, but you won't also want people to know, hey, 5K have gone, now 10K, now, and you want to measure progress and create a set of accountability that also addresses this other part of the brain that addresses vision, that addresses the operational side of stuff, that the execution side of stuff. So don't miss any of those, otherwise you will be a lower motivated team because you don't know what you're doing in terms of motivation. So just keep in mind that if you fail in either of these, or you just keep all project oriented and action oriented, and you don't bring a sense of purpose to the team, you'll just have half of it. Or you'd really have a strong sense of purpose to the team, but you don't control activity and it's all a mess. Each of those will just be incomplete by themselves. You have to be great at both. So you cannot only be good at one of them. Now, imagery and movie making is what drives this idea of, hey, I can see it. Can you see it? I can see it. Now, give me an example where you can do that where you typically do that in the software. Where do we use vision? And that's important in the software. Where do we do that? Sometimes when helping the client, right? Well, the client has an idea of what the software will do, but how will it look like? The question, how will it look like? So we kind of make some simulations of how the screen could look like. And if you press this button, then this will appear and this, oh, very cool. And then it's much easier to sell. because sell an abstract idea and sell something they can see, it's really different. Okay. Now, yeah, we're always trying to reach the sprint goal. Does a half marathon count? Yes, it does. The idea is the same. Is there any methodology to train teams to have that kind of perception? Yeah, at the moment, we are trying to train you as a leader to be able to do that. And it is a perception. So any other examples? For example, is it done? Have you ever had the challenge of some programmer, some engineer saying, I've done, it's ready. Is it ready? What do we mean, is it ready? Is it ready, it's tested on your laptop? Is it ready deployed on the main server? Is it ready, has it passed the tests? Is it ready, is the story accepted by the product owner? What do you mean, is it ready? So done, not done, themselves can have a huge amount of expectations around what would be a finish line. And you as a leader cannot leave that to chance. You have to be really sharp. And one of the easiest techniques when you are trying to convey a finish line and you are not really sure that people got it, what can you do? Yeah, you can ask, hey, can you restate what I've just asked you, just to see what you got from there. And people just do a Roger, say, well, I think you want me to do this. Almost there, just forgot this and this. And so when the leader tries to really convey in a very clear and sharp finish line, the goal is this, and repeats himself for 10 times, saying more or less the same thing, he kind of goes away on the meeting and says, this was really clear, wasn't it? And you never know that if people are leaving the room saying, well, what did she, what was that about? What do you think she meant? And so the question is, are you just being self-centered and saying very clearly the goal? Are you just creating the interactivity that says, hey, what's landing for you guys? What's that? What's your reality seen from there? What are you seeing from what I just said? And can you please restate what you think is the goal here? And so that's really important. And it's easy to create that arena where you, not in a boring way, but in a fluid way, just ask, hey, can you just restate that, because there's some subtleties there, and that's the. When I do coaching in keynote speaking, once I remember, it was really funny. I was just engaging I didn't have a contract yet with this client, and he was just doing this major board meeting with 60 directors, and he spoke quite eloquently. And in the end, he said, "How did it go? It was good, right?" I said, "You think?" "I think it was a disaster." I said, "What do you mean? They didn't even have a question." I said, that's exactly that. They didn't even have a question. You didn't even reach a state where they could feel they could have something to talk about. So it was a kind of a disaster. And fortunately, he still worked with me after that feedback. But the thing that they kind of see themselves as very, very sharp in their emission of the message. And it's not about what you say. It's about what's understood. So if you don't have this check system, you are up for really messy communication. And the lower bandwidth you have, the messier it will be. So if you base your communication in written channels, it will be kind of disaster. Okay, and as the more bandwidth you have, preferably with image, that's why I ask you to turn the camera on without much success on my part. But if you have a lot of bandwidth, it will be much better to see what's happening. Now, comments here that I want to pay attention to. You need to set a definition of done within the team. Correct. Exactly, Tiago. I really encourage you. I really support that comment. You have to have a definition of done. If you just assume the definition of done, well, you know what they say. assumptions are the mother of all fuck-ups, right? So it's your choice. Now, I'm a software developer, and we just say that it's done when it's deployed to production accepted by stakeholders. Correct. And sometimes, no, that can bring a part of the equation that is outside of your influence, because then you don't know how long will they take to assess that and really make the accept. So you can set the definition that it's done internally up to the point that it's delivered, and then it's considered accepted in another status. So the team doesn't lose motivation by handing over the status pending on someone they don't control. Okay, I don't know if this makes sense for you, but that's my comment would be that. Depending on development and integration process, you can have multiple stages of done, correct, and they all need to be clear to the team. Very, very cool. So you see, this feedback from you guys makes me assess if something of what I'm saying is landing or not, if I'm just talking something that's very off your reality. Now, another important part of vision, just before I bring you to an exercise so you can just change ideas around this, is that sometimes the captain is in the boat. Let me draw a caravel here. And here is a boat, and here is the captain, and the captain has this major telescope and sees really far away, and he says, "Hey guys, can you see we're trying to reach land? And can you see land? It's really far, but I can see it from here. Is within maybe 20 miles. Can you see that?" And if they have a respectful environment, they would say, "No, it's really foggy from here. I don't see what you see," because leaders see far away. They don't see down so much, but they see far away. And so they see much further away than the team. And so they cannot assume that the team is seeing what they see. And if the team is saying that they are seeing what they see, they're probably just bullshitting you. So you have to test. Can you see that? No, we can't. That will be a really important answer to get. So, no, you're not seeing. Okay, fair enough. So I will teach you. And so you pick the row and it's to say, "Hey, left, no, now, right, now, left, no," and say, "These guys don't have any autonomy. I have to do for myself. I have to watch them every step," and say, "No, you don't. It just you miss that they don't see the finish line, but they know how to row. They know how to steer the boat. Just give them a finish line that they can see." So you don't have to jump into micromanagement. You just have to jump into, "Hey, but do you see those rocks around there? Can you leave the boat there and then we talk?" "Yeah, sure." So if you are just jumping into micromanagement because you are seeing too far away and they don't see what you see, just bear in mind that you just have to balance how far away you can see. And sometimes it's not the same from person to person. So micromanagement is one of the... Now, micromanagement is particularly a trap when you know the technical side of it. Because if you don't control technical side of it, it's much harder to do micromanagement because you don't know how to do it. And so you have to trust that they will do it. But if you know how to do it, you're always saying, "Hey, let me just fix that for you." And you just have your hands on the code, and that will be a disaster in terms of respect for the person, for all the drive we were talking about, for the person feeling respected, feeling recognized, wanting to grow, wanting to learn, wanting to be stimulated to go to be better. That will be a disastrous approach, but it can bring results. It's true, especially if you work overnights every day. Now, so how will it look like is one of the typical aspects. Now, how would this meeting look like if it was successful? How would this meeting? We're going to a meeting with a client. The client is kind of pissed off. How would it look like if we had a positive outcome of the meeting? This kind of mental projection of future scenarios and finish lines, it's just a regular mindset that I will really encourage you to have. So in the end of this workshop, what do we want from here? And I already restated, in the end of these 3 hours, you will have had the opportunity to reflect with me around some of the challenges, but you will not become experts in leadership. You'll just have the opportunity to have one or a couple of insights, and then you will have a homework that is bring those insights to your team and adapt them and try something. If you don't try something, then I just failed. Okay. I found from personal experience that having the team on board with faraway vision has very good results in terms of motivation. And you can also get a lot of great input from the guys regarding the same vision and how it could be improved. Completely agree, especially when you are training them to see far away. And then you have to assess if it was really something they saw similar to what they see, or is it your projection that, no, I think they got it, and you didn't really check? Okay, so I would just encourage you to keep on seeing far away. I always, as a leader of my company, I always love to get them the opportunity when I can, even with the rookies, to say, hey, how I see this is like this. And I know that sometimes I'm losing traction because I'm speaking too abstract, I'm speaking too far away, but it's enticing for them to hear me. It's just not a good way to track progress if it's not converted into something they can really grasp and can really have a tangible view on. Okay. I will have a meeting right now and we'll need to leave. Very good presentation so far. Thank you, Nuno, for your being here. And now let's just check some ideas. I would like you to share with each other. What have you been seeing so far? What made sense for you? What are you bringing to your own team, if anything, that might be relevant to share? How is vision different from value? How is finish line different from purpose? How is the perception of a benefit different from just seeing what would the metric of achieving something? What did you see? What did you get? Bring me any comments on that. What comes to mind as those differences? Let's take 10 minutes for this sharing. Especially within the room, I really encourage you, out of respect for your colleagues, to have your camera on. Have fun. See you very soon. Bring me something to share in the chat.
How can I join some other breakout room? I was alone in that one.
There you go. I'll have you a more populated one.
Thank you.
How do I join the breakout? Because I only see one person there, or with me.
Very well. There you have a company now, I assume.
Okay, if it's breakout 5, let's both join because I was there alone.
Try again, and I will throw you into something more populated. Try again. Rodrigo, there you go. You go to here. João, are you, João Rebelo, are you okay? Do you want me to change the breakout room because you were alone?
I guess so, because I cannot join.
Okay.
Didn't join anything.
If you don't accept the invitation there, I can't really. Let me test. Let me see if I can move you to room 3. Try
Okay.
it now. If it doesn't work, let me know. There are many people who have not joined the breakout rooms, and so there were many people alone in the rooms. Just kind of strange. I guess some people are just watching the stream, but are with no conditions of accepting the invitation, or somehow not really here with us. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. Everyone's still being transported. Hang on. Brace for impact. 42, here we are. So welcome back. Can you share something in the chat? What did you see? What was useful? Whatever you think came out of your conversation that is useful to share, and for me to have a sense of how this is landing for you guys, and or questions or comments or anything. Or you can comment live. How was the conversation so far? To avoid micromanagement at all costs. But very true, very true. I'm gonna have a share moment. The task for the group was not clear. That's also very insightful, I think. If the task was not clear, you see the mess it got. You see what your guys, your team is suffering. I see, hey, I don't know what he said. I'm not clear about the goals. That's really insightful. Thank you, Jean-Will, for that insight. I'm really suspecting that was insightful for yourself as a team leader. It's really frustrating, right? See, what did the trainer said? What did he want really? I have no idea. So we're discussing the finish line being changed all the time and how it is demotivating. True. You can also open up the microphone. We are not that many. So if anyone will have some comments or insights or questions, or I would be really thankful for your participation. We found useful discussing the vision idea and talked a bit about real life scenarios where it's very hard even for team leads to have the vision, or in other cases having that vision and not being able to put it in practice. Yeah, because we belong to a business, right? And it has many stakeholders and sometimes with different directions. Sometimes it's theoretically very simple to say, hey, just define the goal and that's it. And then which goal? The goal for the team, the goal for the quality guy, the goal for the product owner, the goal for the sales guy, the goal for the client, the goal for the owner. What goal? There are so many goals going on within the business, right? It's very difficult to align them. Okay, let's move on. At any time, if you feel you'd like to intervene, please feel free to do so. And let's do the third fundamental and some comments around the third fundamental, which is more of your arena, and I'll be shorter here. I'll just say that bringing back the idea of there's a value behind a finish line, there's the finish line itself, and there's some action we want to take to get to the finish line, and that we can track progress, and we can even track if we are derailing on the projects and assess some gaps and whatever project management methodologies and actions we want to take. Now, action is a totally different arena. By action, we want to be able to manage progress, and we cannot do that if these little steps are not very clear in a binary way, whether they are done or not done. If you lose the binary status of action units, you will lose project management, period. It's not possible to do project management without a binary status idea. You can approach it with percentages, but I really don't recommend it, only in very particular scenarios. Now, and another point that I would like to make that's very typical to be unclear is ownership. Now, ownership or responsibility, if it's not clear, what is it to be responsible for something? And to be responsible for something means you are the guardian angel, you are the sentinel, you are the guy that it won't really rest until the finish line is there. So is it done? No, it's still on you, but I need help. Well, it's on you anyways, unless you renegotiate with me that you are with a scarce resource challenge. You are facing some lack of sponsorship. You are lacking some knowledge, but it's still on you. Now, if you spread the ownership for more than one person, then things will get messier very, very quickly. Now, every day we use channels that are really multi channels, are really broadcast channels, and they are really multi channels, which are disastrous and typically are disastrous for a clear, singular, unique ownership attribution of who has this one. So singular attribution and clear version of action and singular attribution of ownership, it's very, very important. And if you need sponsorship, just shout out, hey, I'm responsible for something that I don't have resources to achieve, and I think this will not be on time, delivered on time. For that, I will need this, and this. And if you have a really strange boss, he will say, well, you have to do it anyways, which is not very motivating, but sometimes happens. It's out of the scope of this training. Now, you have to be able to renegotiate the attribution if you think you won't be there on time. Saying, hey, I just had a flat tire, I think I'm going to be late. Okay, very cool. You don't arrive late and saying, I'm sorry, I had a flat tire. That's not good ownership. That's not good responsibility practice. Okay. So if you don't create a safety environment where everybody is kind of adult and feeling really safe to share that I don't think this will reach the line on time. If you don't create that environment, people will not renegotiate. They'll just expect that the train hits the wall and everything is collapsing and say, well, it was impossible anyway. Why didn't you tell me so? Then you won't have an answer. So if you want people to really do a heads up and saying, hey, careful, I don't think this is going well. You need to create that environment, because the day you say, hey, I don't think this is going well. What do you mean? It has to go well. They say once, but they don't say it twice. And so then you lose track of that impeccable commitment, cultural attribute that is when everybody who is responsible for something will not let that something down no matter what. That's the kind of reliability you want. And for that, you have to be really clear about priorities and really acceptive of bad news. Okay? If you don't receive bad news well, you will not have bad news. And not having bad news is typically a very, very bad strategy. Okay? Now, you told me about expectations. Expectations is a word that I really makes me kind of fringe, because expectation lives in in our minds. I had an expectation that Gonçalo Mata would come here and would do an enlightenment talk, and I would be an expert in leadership in 3 hours. I see. That's not on me. That's on you. That's your imagination working on. My commitment to the people that invited me was, hey, I can bring here a set of behavioral patterns that typically are really useful for the teams I've been coaching. Do you want me to bring them? Hey, wow, that would be really cool. And here they are. Now, commitment towards an agreement is totally different than a commitment towards an expectation. Oh, my expectation was you were taller. See, I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry to hear that. That's not on me. Okay. So what's on me is when I really accept a challenge. I accept a commitment. I accept a responsibility. And if you are using written channels, especially email, and there's no accept button, you assume there was an acceptance, and there wasn't. And well, what did I say? You didn't reply. If I didn't reply, then it was not on. It's only on when there's a commitment, and there's no commitment unilateral. A commitment has to be bilateral. So try to forget about expectations and bring agreement to the table. Agreement, a contract. Imagine that you were working for a client that has a lot of expectations, but you didn't negotiate with him use cases or user stories. You had no specification whatsoever. He would imagine whatever software was in his mind, and you will never deliver what he had on his mind, because you don't even know what's on his mind. So forget about expectations, bring contracts, bring agreements, bring some tools that don't let things build on in individual minds. Let things be shared in the table so everyone can see. And so if you think about how kids, about the communication channels, how kids go about a football match, and he would say they would probably gather around the ball because it's much more fun. That's how I played, and still would if I played now. So the ball is where the fun is. Now, it's very tiring because then you all move together as a group, and it's quite inefficient. And what happens when someone loses the ball? It's, well, who lost the ball? I don't know. The ball was lost. You were there. You were all on CC. So nobody is responsible because everybody was included in the communication, and communication responsibility kind of got messy. And so when communication is used in a way that unclarifies and gets foggy, the clear attribution of who owns the ball, then you cannot ask who has the ball, and you cannot ask who is responsible for letting me know what's the status on that ball. And then, so communication is a challenge, and you all know that we are moving towards centralized repositories that can be accessed by many players, and not multi-points, communication channels that are kind of disastrous for proper project management. So we've seen value, we've seen vision, we've seen action briefly. What's the, any comments on that? You can go on the mic about that. Any comments on that? Emails and CCs usually are a bit messy to manage once people want to talk about that, but we might take a look. Very well, let's move on. Let's move towards development. Okay, so how do you develop your team? Anyone? With your mics or with chat if you want. How do you develop your
Sorry,
team?
could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, how do you develop your team, your team skill? How do you guarantee that in the end of the year, they will do much more than they did in the beginning of the year? How can you cultivate that? Anyone? I imagine that you are multitasking, right? Kind of busy doing many things. That's fine. Not the best way to engage with the workshop, but it's totally up to you. By challenging them towards something, very, very true. If you get challenged, you kind of go up to meet the challenge. Discuss with them training needs, motivation, goals, and design a personal development plan together. Very well, making sure they are challenged once more. And now a comment about challenge, and let me do a drawing on that. Now, challenge has a connection with motivation. So the more people are challenged, the more they are motivated, right? Not really. Doesn't work like that, because if I ask you to run 100 meters in 15 seconds, well, maybe that's a challenge. If I ask you to run them under 10 seconds, They say, I'm not in the Olympics, okay? And if I asked you guys to try to run them within half an hour, you would say, what? Okay, so it's very likely in a broad approach that motivation will have a typical normal curve where this is the challenge and this is the motivation. So there's a point where is the sweet spot, okay? Now, a good leader will know that realistic outcome. Thank you, Telmo. Would know how pushy she can be towards that member in particular. But the great leader would do something completely even more. It comes from a different approach. A great leader will do this to the curve and will get this, okay? It's said that Mourinho was really good at doing this. And also, for example, the trainer of Serena Williams was really good at doing that with her. What's this about? It's that the challenge is not a challenge, is a perception of challenge, is an idea of, am I or not able to do that? So because it's a perception, the leader can really mess with that perception. Either way, also a leader can do this to the curve, just saying, hey, you don't do anything right, you're always failing, or you're saying, no, I think you can do that. Hey, but even if you fail, I'm here for you. And so we are enhancing the safety nets so that people can really try something that's out of the comfort zone, that otherwise they wouldn't. They would just go, hey, this is too much for me. Or they will block. If they didn't have a saying about if they receive or not the task, they would just block. Say, oh, how is it going? Not well. Why? It's too much. Well, maybe not. I've seen you do similar stuff. Very, very, very cool. I think you can do that. And so the leader is motivating people to create a self-awareness that's manipulable in the good way. So you can mess with this perception. It's not a fixed state. The skill is not just a skill, it's a perceived skill. Okay, so just bear this in mind. Now, what would a leader wanting to develop team do if some team member comes with a decision to make? Hey, big leader, should I do A or should I do B? What would be your answer?
The first one would be, what would you think? What do you think?
Exactly. And now let's imagine that B was, say, 20% better than A. So Tiago, what about if someone says, well, I will do A?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
So if the guy comes, hey, Tiago, should I do A or B? And you would say, well, what would you do? And he would say, I will do A.
I would ask why.
So you would ask why. And
try
I will
to stimulate
explain
the discussion.
Yeah, and then you can stimulate discussion. So then you can explain why. But is reasoning and experience at the same level in terms of development? No, they're not. I can do a good effort to explain my little one, Andre, that if he touches with his hand on the oven when it's working, he will burn his hand. And so I will abstractly explain that will hurt your hand, you know, when you hurt your hand, and that, well, this is hot and that's not going well. And he can rationally do that. But if I get distracted and he gets distracted and he puts the hand on the oven, what happens? He will learn. Okay. Now he will complete the call cycle in a way that's not replicable when you reason, when you have the reasoning discussion. Now, when he really sticks the hand, when he really does a mess, then 1 month later he has to recode everything. When he really hits the wall, he will learn in a way that you will never be able to explain. So if you are a leader and are really trying to enhance the autonomy, to have Andre in the kitchen, knowing that he will not put the hand in oven if you are distracted, then you have to put the oven maybe purposely, but not dramatically. Okay. So
the idea of the discussion, at least for me, as a leader, would be, first of all, to figure out what was the position of the other guy in terms of the decision making on the problem. And if I saw that it would be a useful experience to let him proceed his own way without too much damage, it would be kind of a balanced decision to make, and allow him to learn that way. But sometimes in real scenarios, you can't really do that. You can't
afford it.
You can't afford it for him to go ahead and just mess things up. So you
that's
need
why
to...
a perfect comment, Tiago. Totally agree. I'm totally with you on that assessment. Now, that's why I was saying that if you want to produce results and you want to develop your team, you will have to choose how you want to balance those outcomes, because you will not optimize both at the same time.
Yeah.
You'll optimize results then in the next year, not in the same year. Okay. So first level, you would say, well, A or B, do B, level 0, no development whatsoever, but very crystal clear and possibly optimal to the outcome and practical part of it. Level B, hey, why do you say A? No, you say B is better because of this. Oh, okay, thank you very much. But he would ask again and the next time. Level 3, are you going to do, you say A? Okay, try it out and then let me know.
Yep, exactly.
And then he comes, my hands. Okay, now you know. You never ask anymore. So take this into consideration. Now, more about developments. We talked about ownership of action, and in the same idea that we have action and we have vision and we have value, you can also have these 3 layers of development in the autonomy of someone in your team. So you can have them choose which way they want to use to reach the finish line, and you can afford it or not. If it's not very efficient, at least they are learning. You can let them choose where exactly is the finish line, or you can even, in a very advanced level, you can even let him choose the value perception, the value proposition that you are offering the client. So you can have this multi-layer of development in terms of this autonomy. Not only how are we going to do it, I'm going left, you're going right, but what exactly are we going to do it, and what value are we proposing. Those are layers of development. Now, in terms of trust, because this is an interactive dynamic between you and your team member, trust is a dynamic that creates an upward spiral or a downward spiral, depending on how you start. So in Portuguese, we say it's a toma lá da cá, which is give a little, give me a little, give a little, give me a little. But it's not a da cá toma lá. It's not prove me that you are worth my trust and then I give you the trust. So if you are expecting them to prove the trust, then you are going a down spiral, because they don't feel recognized, they don't feel trusted, and they will behave as untrustworthy. And if you start by giving them trust and then making them feel really responsible for the trust they have, then they will make the effort to be up to that level of responsibility they are receiving. So consider that the biggest challenge you will have is how severe it is for yourself to trust and then receive a bad result. If you think that's really important and it will be a problem for your identity and will make you a fool out of your own team leader, then you will not be able to trust, and then the person will not feel trusted, and the spiral will go down. The same applies when you are handling their mistakes. Okay, when you are handling their mistakes, if they stem out of proactivity and out of a real good effort, you should really emphasize that part is welcome. If they stem from silliness, lack of attention, or just they were not there committed, then you are good to criticize them. Now, I'm really curious about knowing what was the moment you most learned yourselves personally. Can you remember a recent moment in the last 5 years maybe, or even more if you want, that you really learned a lot and really developed a lot of skills? And I want the group to bring me 3 ingredients that the situation had. So what ingredients were there? Was it that it was a lot of pressure? Was it that there was no one else to do it? Was it that your leader trusted you? What was that? What enhanced your learning? So to see if there is some pattern that we might want to think about. So in breakout rooms, I'm going to recreate much less breakout rooms because I feel there are a lot of people that are just not here with us. They just logged in, but they are not here. And so I will have a lot more people within the room, within each room. Let's do some overbooking, knowing that many will not show up. Let's see how that goes. So your goal is to bring me 3 ingredients of high development environments, of high development situations where we really learned a lot. What 3 ingredients could we gather as a group that we believe were there to enhance that learning? I'm not sure if I was clear enough, but that's the game. There we go. Open all rooms. We're back. So, 3 ingredients. Now, was this task a bit more clear? 3 ingredients. Okay, so let me have them. Throw them. Create a culture of questioning and how to do stuff. Very cool. More. What enhanced? What enhanced your learning? What else? And if you want to comment live, you can also do so. Okay. Put out of the comfort zone. That's really cool, isn't it? Really cool. Put out of the comfort zone. Now, are you the kind of leaders? Who's the kind of leader that every day is putting people out of their comfort zone? Okay. Do you think you can do better there? Or do you think that's a bit unwise?
Yeah, I definitely can do better. I'm a bit protective in terms of the scope I assign to my team, and I usually don't push it too hard unless I know I'm dealing with someone that has the ability and the interest to tackle some more complex problems out of their comfort zone. But in a general way, I'm not really that guy.
Okay. You just might want to test it out. Maybe you find out. Well, I think the worst case scenario is when people are leaving and we ask them, why are you leaving? Oh, you didn't put me out of my comfort zone. I think, oh my God, what a failure. That's the worst case scenario. But you might want to gauge that and just ask, hey, what do in your one-on-ones, can I ask further? Do you want to be more challenged? Do you feel the amount of challenge is reasonable for your learning curve? Also, because different people with different ages in particular will have different ambition and as towards how challenged they want to be. Maybe you have someone older that just wants to go home early, or you have someone is really in the beginning of their career that they want to go very far, and so they cannot have a pace of patronizing kind of.
It depends on the person, really. Some people are very productive inside their comfort zone, and they like it that way.
And they can be disastrous if they are out of it.
Yeah. But and are also, they learning? They are doing fast their job, but are they improving?
Yeah. And do they want to improve? You
yeah.
know, sometimes you can put someone that was really productive in a rather stable way and just challenge it too much, and the production reduces. That's not unlikely to happen. Other developers on the team have more skills. That's also important. Are you being paired up, or are you pairing people up with good mentors? Are you pair programming with? I even saw a very interesting study about how you don't want to pair program people between a rookie and the too far people, because they are already over the rules, and so it doesn't work. So you want to have a good rule-oriented guy, but it's an expert paired with the rookies, not a super expert that's just making everybody's crazy. Training, mentoring, on-the-job experience really challenges when we are challenged to do something we are not used to or prepared to new job position. So this is kind of what I usually get. And the challenge here is, do you want to challenge yourselves to be out of your comfort zone as a leader and receive just different answers from your team? Do you want to yourselves go out of your comfort zone, asking people to do stuff that are out of theirs? Do we want to do that? Do we want to try that out? Not everything will work. I'm not advising you to do that. I'm just challenging you if that makes sense for you at this moment in your career. Okay? It's not a recommendation. Don't come in 2 months and say, Gonçalo, my team is a wreck now. You are to blame. Because I will say, I told you so. It was not advice. It was just for you to think for yourself. So development, it's done. We are about to break for 5 minutes. I'll do a 5-minute break for us to use the restroom and just stretch our legs and can come back. Just before I do so, I would like to close this chapter, at least in my mind, this is a chapter, with the level of complexity that the team has, and it's already been addressed, but I'm just going to recapture the idea of complexity. So as we've been drawing, or I've been drawing the representation of a single guy wanting to be driven to a specific goal, the thing is, when you have a team, there is not one goal and one perception of value. Okay, so different people within a team will have different ideas about what the goal is, and different interests, personal interests, is in how is it valuable for them. If I'm very shy and I'm being exposed because the leader thinks that exposing people gives them visibility and recognition, and that's a good thing, you're missing the point. You have to find enough interest to know for each of your team members, what do they value? And then sometimes they don't even know very well. So that's where you have to get in the coaching arena as a leader and just staying with them, saying, hey, how comfortable are you if you would just get you a challenge or a project where you would have much more visibility? And the answer could be, oh no, I don't, I'm very well where I am, which is not unlikely to happen. Or, wow, that will make me wake up in totally energized. And so the problem of a team complexity is each of them will have an idea of what the goal is, and the lining of that is different, and a different perception of how valuable they are in their own benefit perception. And of course, each of them will have an idea on how to get there. And so a strong action coordination means that not everybody will decide the way. Someone will decide the way. We all will decide the way, but there will be one way that's shared for everyone. And you want to build a perception where the value of the individual is not more important than the value of the team. And that's very curious in group theory, in terms of psychology, is that you will engage and protect a group if you perceive that the group's strength will benefit you. So, and you will sabotage if otherwise happens. So, for example, you see in the movies, in the terror movies, where they are stuck in the house and there are monsters in the cave or whatever. And then there's at a certain point, they say, let's go to the basement. And the girl goes, no, are you crazy? In the basement is where everything goes wrong. You cannot, but we need a hammer. Oh, but no. And we are going. Okay, I go with you. Okay. And so the thing is, there's a group dynamic going there, where you want to sabotage the movement because you think it's going to be bad. But then, well, if they chose that, I'm going with them. So if you have a lot of sabotaging within your team, it's because the idea of that person that they didn't choose the way I wanted, so I'm just not collaborating so much, that the person thinks that choosing the way is more important in an egocentric perspective than the result of the team. And so they lack collaboration when they are not the owner of the choice. And that's something you need to work as a cultural trait of the team. Because so the individual cannot go above the team. The team has to be more valuable. And if the individual doesn't perceive that, it's because you're not creating an environment where the team member feels they belong to. Okay, so a little bit on group theory, just for your reflection. So individual adjustments on the perception of benefits, multi-Roger in terms of communication, and clear ownership in efficient action coordination. And why do they perceive you as a team? I would like you to do this exercise just before the break. It is, do you think they are seeing you as a team leader because, one, they have to? I'm the boss. Is that the one? Or they see me as their leader because they like me? Do you think you have that one? They like me, so, well, he's a good guy, so it's my leader. Or do you think they have you as their leader because you really deliver? Because I deliver. Because with me, they win, and everybody loves to win. And I win within my team. So they want to work for me because I win and they like to win. They don't like me, but they like winning. So, okay. Again, Mourinho was a lot like that. Many players hated Mourinho, but they loved that he won the games. But it's a different, there's no affection there. It's a bit narrow. Or do you think they look at you as their leader because they look at me as their leader because I grow them, I develop them? Or do you think they look at you as their leader because because of what I represent? Because I'm the representation of a set of values of efficiency, rigor, quality, professionalism, or that they really strive to get. And so they see me as the representative of that idea. And so they follow me because I represent those values. Okay? So just a minute for you to think for yourselves, which ticks would you put and which wouldn't you put? Take a minute just to assess yourselves. Don't need to share. Five-minute break. Guys, for me, 5 minutes is 300 seconds in my watch, at least. That makes it for, let's be very generous and say, let's be here at 16:04, okay? 16:04, I'll start talking. See you very soon.
Okay, see you.
You.
So welcome back, everyone. We'll have a moment here just to unmute yourselves and just exchange with me some ideas. What have you seen so far? What questions do you have around what I said? Any comments, any topics I haven't addressed yet, and you would like to have my opinion on? Any challenges? This is a moment for us while everybody's coming back from the break. Let's have a chat all together.
Yeah, I have a question, if I may.
Please, Nelson.
So before asking us to go on this exercise for these few minutes, you seem to have put the reason why people might follow us on some sort of a scale ranging from 1 to 5. So my question is, and just looking at it, it seemed like it was kind of anchor based from external anchors to internal anchors, starting as I have to follow somebody to I appreciate their values. So my question is, did you put them on a scale on purpose? Is somehow number 5 more desirable or more complete than number 1, or was it just random?
Not really, not really. Was a sort of a scale because we are moving towards external compliance into internal commitments, and the stronger, the deeper the values, the stronger the inner commitments. So you will have people fighting for their nation, or you would have people fighting for justice, or you will have people resenting that you were unfair in the decision. And so that will bring about a very deep, effective relationship to the leader if they don't represent the value. So it's a sort of scale. What do you think for yourself? What did you, where would you put that? How do you see yourself as a leader, Nelson?
Well, I'm obviously biased, but you have to ask my people. But I would say number 2, because they like me. This is based on feedback I get directly from them. It's also something I try to nurture, empathy. I found it has served me well when looking to people that I had to follow in the past. And also the collective success one, I think it was number 4, and the values part as well, is something I at least make a conscious effort to work very proactively with the teams at. So if I'm not succeeding in getting them to line up for that, at least I'm making an effort to do so.
Yeah, very cool. And Nelson, if I can build on your answer, probably useful for everyone, is that even when we are what we believe in, when we are an example of what we believe in, we get this inner congruence, and people will really resonate with that. So I would say that the effortless it gets, the more aligned with who you are it gets, and then it will get really congruent, and then they will really resonate with you because you are what you believe in, and there's no theater going on. Sometimes, though, the leader is responding to someone above, sometimes, most times. And so there are a lot of forces. And so people's perception about the decision of the leader sometimes is faulty, because the leader is taking this decision out of this force and this force that's coming from above, from the client, from the stakeholder, from whatever. And so the more transparent we get around that's out of your influence, the more that they can see the pattern of your behavior, because you're not trying to be someone else, you're just trying to be you. And we don't have to try to be us. we're just who we are. And so if people resonate with your values, then they will resonate with you. And if you're trying to represent values that you don't have, it will not work, because people will catch your bullshit very soon. Okay, so you cannot fake that you believe to care about people if you don't care about people, because in any pressure moment you will just care about the project. It will be very easily discovered. So thank you very much for your intervention, Nelson. Very pertinent.
Thank you for your insights.
What else? What else would you like to have an opinion on? What else have you been seeing for yourselves? Let's take this moment just to coach you guys a little. What are your main challenge? What are you struggling? What have you been seeing so far? Is that addressing your reality? Am I just off track? Andy, you have to unmute yourself, please. Wait a minute, not yet. There you go. There you go.
I said not at all. It was very insightful so far. I really
Very
like the idea of this conflict of achieving outcomes versus growing the team.
Yeah. Do you feel that for yourself? Are you trying to grow the team?
Yes, but I think often I get carried away, just try to get shit done or achieve the outcomes.
Don't we all?
Let me just fix it for you, which I'm very much aware now.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your feedback. So what else? What else could be interesting for us to talk about? I'm going now in a different direction, but before that, I would welcome any questions or comments that you want to use me for. How could this work in a flat organization? Well, that's a very insightful question, Guilherme. Thank you for that. Well, my belief is that we are going towards, and this is just my personal belief, nothing too technical about it, but a bit. I think if I can represent something in my board, I believe we are going from flip chart didn't start. Let me fix that. There you go. So we're going from pyramidal multi-level organizations to more flat organizations, but that's not really the point. The point is we're moving from a role-based organizations to a skill set based organizations. Okay, so what does it mean? It means that we will have much more multidisciplinary teams working on projects, then they're not working together anymore, then they will group again, they will not group again, they will get this skill set while it's useful, then they'll that. And so the dynamic will be much more correlated, not with roles, I'm the head of division, I'm the head of, but with skill sets that are working towards projects that are client driven. And so the client will be the epicenter of how we can collaborate and get the group together, and then the group will inform again. Now, that does not replace the need for processes and management. Management and processes are just an intrinsic part of business. And if you don't have them, you surely are not going as fast as you can, and you surely are not thinking as strategically as you can, because people don't have that responsibility, or they mixed a lot that responsibility of future thinking with putting the hands on what's going on. And so I think the analysis should not be, are we flat or are we not flat? It should be, do we have a dynamic of organic skill set or not? And do we have a sharp attribution of responsibilities in what terms of who is thinking strategically about where we're steering the boat? Where do we want to be 10 years from now? What kind of culture do we want? And so that always requires specific roles and specific attributions that if you just have a super flat organization in a way of everybody does a bit of what they want, that will not be very exciting to people working, because people love to win, and when the victory is not clear and nobody's setting where the victory is, the things don't go so well. That's my opinion, Guilherme. I don't know if this addresses anything you were asking. Yeah, I
would say, sorry, on that topic, I would say I work in a very, I'm on the other side of that kind of organization. The organization that I work is very vertical. It's the other side. It's very hierarchical, and we really, at least I as a software engineer and as a team leader, I feel that sometimes that vertically organized structure, it's really it tends to we tend to get to a point where we have so many communication problems, because it's very difficult for information to flow from the top to the bottom. And from my experience, we as developers and as well, almost everybody at the bottom of the organization gets to a point where it gets lost. It's not getting the information, and we start getting the troubles on the other topics.
The right information and in the right time, because
yeah,
it's slow.
Sure, and that leads us to problems in other topics that we talked about earlier, like motivation, commitment, because people don't understand
and clarity.
Yeah, people don't know where are we going to, and sometimes that's because I'm in a vertical organization. I tend to think that we should be more flat, but from what you are saying, flat's not the solution too. So we really have.
I mean, there should be a middle point, a sweet point somewhere between a super multi-layer full of the boss, and then every decision has to be validated, which just slows everything down.
Yeah.
And between an anarchy that everybody does a bit of what they want, and it's not. Either case is not very enticing for the talented people. People want, if you want to run the marathon, people want someone to put the lines of where they will
What's
run.
The course? What's the course?
Oh, you run 42 kilometers over the city. Don't worry, we are tracking you. What's the fun in that?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it could be, but really?
No.
So
it's not
there
fun at all.
There should be a middle level there.
Yeah, and the multidisciplinary, it's a problem that we face too, because my team is it's only a team for software development. It's only for software development, and then we have some teams in other departments that are our product owners, and that specify what we do, and so we as a team, we are not multidisciplinary. We don't have that, and sometimes I guess that
complicates everything.
Yeah, sure. We
especially in co-creation, Philip. Co-creation is the part where you really want to be side by side with whoever you're co-creating with. That's why when you sit with a designer, it's completely different that you are exchanging emails with them, and
yeah, sure,
and those kind of.
And that problem of the expectations, because we have a very big difficult time understanding what they are thinking, what they want, what they really want, and they have a difficult time in specifying it to us. It's like we don't speak the same language, you know.
Yeah, and also, if I can represent and even introduce something that I want to talk about, is that when we, again, I could not have this already on. So when we have a team, the definition of team has a unavoidable concept of shared goal. So a team is a group of individuals that share a common goal. Well, in a multi-layered complex organization, there are too many goals for you to have a shared goal. You don't have shared services in HR really worried that the project is on time. You don't have them worried with that. We have them worried about recruitment and training and onboarding. And you don't have the infrastructure guys trouble because there was a delay and the bug is unfixable and unreplicable. No, they are worried with something else. And even the sales guy, who knows if they are really worried with the delivery or they are moving somewhere else for a new customer. And so it's really difficult to have everybody sharing the same goal. Now, a bit more on this is the team has a shared goal, and the team has a shared processes, has a way of collaborating to achieve their goal. And it has another thing that is important, is the culture that stems from the values. And the values, and there's a lot to be said about the culture, because sometimes cultural behaviors are just there because they have always been there, and they are not just nobody's deciding about the culture, not in a conscious way. Sometimes we are hired to enhance cultural traits. And very recently, or quite recently, I imagine you've all heard about it, Google made a 2-year study on their teams to try to study the correlation between teams' efficiency, high performance teams, and 250 skill attributes and teams attributes. So what showed a better correlation between the team attributes and the performance? It's interesting. It was over 180 teams in a study. And what do you think was the most correlated trait of the team in terms of performance? What would you guess? What would you guess? What trait of the team was best correlated with performance? Well, I'm going to tell you.
Psychological safety.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. I see, Monica, that you know the study. It was psychological safety. So that was really insightful and quite surprising for Googlers. Why psychological safety? What's that about? And the second one, I think, was dependability, and the third one was clear goals and clear structure of coordination. Now, psychological safety, or what we in psychology call the no fear environment, is what's that about, and what implications does that have? And I would like us to finish thinking a little bit about this psychological aspect of the team, because it's sometimes overlooked in us engineers and technical in the technical arena, because we're not so sensitive typically. This is typically, of course, there are all sorts of sessions, but typically I find that technical arenas are not so sensitive to emotions and this safety, psychological safety aspect. And so if they are not aware of the importance of it, they will not take care of it. And so I'd like to leave you with these insights. And and this is clear when we get people, for example, procrastinating. Now, people procrastination has to do with what? With people feeling that they don't do that thing well, and they don't want to be seen as incompetent, or they don't perceive value in it. So if you are a leader and you have someone that's procrastinating in a task, you can put more pressure, or you can just try to unblock the person. And unblocking the person you need to assess what's going on their minds, and where are they perceiving that there's no value in the task, so they are not prioritizing, or where are they perceiving that they don't gather the skills needed to really do the task well. And so as you engage in a safe environment, it's much easier to unblock people and get them to be really fast. And in other cases as well. For example, when you sense there's a cautious defensive positioning, an attitude, someone, for example, doesn't like to admit mistakes or something, or for example, they react to a code critic in a way that you were not expecting. They were kind of personally touched by that or attacked by that, or you see that they lack some proactivity and behavior is a bit disengaged and a bit, or for example, you don't see in general an interpersonal collaboration that you would like to see. There's a radar, an X-ray that you want to have to see, hey, I know what's going on. I can see what's going on. Otherwise, you'll just pick your project management tools and say, well, this should be this, and then you're going just skimming the surface, but you're not addressing the issue, not addressing the silent conflict. You're not addressing the defensive posture that stemmed out of your provocative comment that you didn't even realize it was taken so personally by your team member because you were not aware that all of that goes beyond the table, beneath the table. You're not aware of that. So you have to develop sensitivity to see what's going on when those dynamics, psychological dynamics happen, and create the safety for that to happen. And the epicenter of that, and of course, you can be unaware that you are creating the threat itself. So what is a psychological threat? The psychological threat is, for example, the boss making a provocative comment that was kind of goofy, but taken really serious and you didn't even know, because you don't take comments that serious. So why would they take them seriously? Because they are different people. Or you are exposing a shy person, no matter how talented, doesn't like it, and it detracts. Or there's a competitive co-worker, and you just feel the competition. It's putting you down, or you just have a dismissive subordinate, and it just throws you off. See, I mean, I tell them this, and they just don't do it, or they ignore me, or they say they will and they don't, or you have a blame environment. Who's responsible for this? In a way of, I'm cutting their head off. And so all these behaviors are going on your face, and you don't know them. You cannot recognize them. You don't know, and if you can, you cannot do anything about it. And so, what's the epicenter of that? It's very good to know. And the epicenter of that, into the arena of emotional management, is the sense of identity that each of us have. So we think we are a person, and that's really complex because we think we are someone, and that idea of someone, our self, the idea of self, is very volatile. So you can have your idea of self in the morning and you are really cool, and the idea of self in the evening and you are worthless. And then you project your idea of self and you think, well, what does my colleague think of myself? Oh, he thinks I'm very cool. And then you start feeling some imposter syndrome because you now have to live up to the expectations of someone, but you're not really there and they don't know, but you disguise, and all sort of mess going around about your identity. And so, because if you don't address that as a leader, you can have very simple behaviors. For example, like, hey, did everybody understand? Yeah, sure. And you have someone that didn't understand, but they will think I'm stupid because did you have the moment when you are in the classroom and when you're younger where the teacher said, anybody has any doubts? And you would go alone. No, you wouldn't, because that would look really silly. And if you don't realize that, there's someone that doesn't feel safe enough to say, I'm sorry, but I didn't get it, which most likely everybody will say, oh, me too. But I mean, if there's no hero, it won't happen. And you will miss it. You'll just miss it. You have to create the environment when it's really okay to say, I didn't get it. But just as an example. And so if you can bring a culture when it's not about you, it's not about me, it's not about him, it's not about the ego, it's not about the person, where can you put people? You can put people looking at something that's outside of them. So it's about the client, it's about saving the planet, it's about something that's a goal that's outside of you as a leader, outside of you as a team member, outside of everybody. And so people can unpersonalize, not unpersonalize in a disengaged way, no, but in a very engaged way as you play a game where there's nothing really real at stake and you can play fully. I watch my kids play and I miss that. For me, I miss that. I miss that full-hearted playness. They don't play. I see my youngest, that's two years old, run not very well, but run like I'm going to be the wind. And sometimes he fails, sometimes he falls. And I don't see people working like that. Not very often. People just coming with their total talent without any reservations that they are going to fall or not. And that happens when some very special leader can create such a safe environment that everybody can bring their full heart to the table, which is very special, because if you bring your full heart to the table and that energy starts being generated with team, there's really something special going on. And for that to happen, we need to take a look at why is this threat stemming from, where is this stemming from, why is it happening, and what is this ego thing that can really detract people from showing fully. And so that leads us to, if you want to take this to another level, and taking these last 20 minutes to present some more challenging ideas around this, at least they were really challenging for me at the time, is that we have to dive into the nature of the human experience. We need to see how people live their work situation, how people live, how they experience their project, how they experience that comment in the meeting, how do they represent that mentally. And it's really challenging because we are looking at separate realities, and most of us don't realize that there's no objective reality being shared within a team. We don't realize that. We're not trained for that. For us, we were trained that there's a project, there's something to be done, and this is the reality. And so get on with it. So that's how we were trained to. And that's not what's going on. People's experience of their contribution within a project can vary wildly, and can vary wildly from person to person, and can vary wildly within the same person. It's disconcerting, it's confusing. So I would like to leave you with this idea, and I'm going to another drawing because it really helps me being able to share this. So I'm challenging the idea that we live in the world of our circumstances, okay? So please help me, iPad. Sharing screen, not sharing screen, sharing screen. So I will say we don't experience our circumstances. We experience our thinking. What do you mean? Well, I mean that if you have, let me do a world here, let me do our mind here, and imagine that you have reality. Let's not get into there's no reality conversation, not in this forum, in another one maybe, but not this one. So let's assume there's reality, that there's really a client available to pay for our project. And now let's assume that this is one of us. And you could say that, well, what is his experience of reality depends on reality. So if reality has bad things, he's feeling bad. And if reality has good things, he's feeling good. So that would be living in the feeling of the circumstances. So we are our circumstances. And if the circumstances are stressful, I feel stressed. But we know not only that different people feel differently, the stress of pressure of time and timelines and calendars and deadlines, and not only different people feel them differently, but also the same person can be just coming from vacation with a really clear mind and say, well, we have to hurry up because there's a deadline, or I'm so stressed with this pressure, I can't cope with this anymore. It can be the same person. So it's not really it's not coming from the outside in, really. It's more so what's happening. If we zoom in what's happening in our minds, there's no structure on our brain representing reality. I don't know if you know that, but there is no structure on our mind that represents reality unfilteredly. And so we never have perceptual portals that are not activated, pre-activated. So we don't perceive the world as it is. We just build a world based on some evidence from the outside. And so if someone says, and part of my code in the project says, hey, but this is late, and I'm in a state of insecurity, what happens is that this will penetrate my mechanism of meaning attribution. I will say, what does that mean? The guy is attacking me. And so I will just represent reality here, like if I were using a Google glasses, and I will represent from the inside out on my glasses that there is a threat there. Alert, alert, alert. Now, the other person might have said that in a most objective way without any sort of intention of attacking me. But for me, that's absolutely irrelevant because my mechanism is building a movie that has a special effect of, let's fight, okay? And that's the special effect. So if I look behind the scenes, there's nothing going there. That means war. That's just a comment, objective comment that this should be delivered on the 5 and it's the 7, so it's late. And if I come from a really clear mind and I watch the same comment, I might realize, well, it is late. We had these challenges and that one, and it's I think we should do something about that. And I'm totally calm. What's that about? So we vary wildly our response because we are building a matrix as we speak, and the level of computation power and the kind of computation power varies wildly. It varies wildly. It stems from totally different processors. And I will show you how they can be polarized in a simplistic view of how we typically have two kinds of modes, and how can we dive more into one of them that's more realistic. And so the first challenge I would like you to think of is, given what I've just said, that we don't live reality, we live what we think about reality and how we build it. For example, it's very typical. If you see, sometimes you have a concern and you are preoccupied with something that might happen, and you live that preoccupation. Now, nothing is happening, right? You're just living in the thinking of preoccupation, but reality is not presenting you the situation. It's just presenting a possible situation. It's not happening yet. And when you arrive there, if the thing happens really, then you just do what needs to be done, and that's it. And so all the preoccupation, you might have lived for 2 weeks preoccupied with something that when you got there, you just solved. And the reverse also possible. You could have something happen 2 weeks ago and you are still ruminating around it and it's not happening anymore. So the idea that we are living our circumstances directly is really doesn't hold to scrutiny, because it's not that. We live in our movies. we live in a matrix that we create our own. That's not a minor detail to know as a leader. That's a very, very important thing to know as a leader. People live in their own realities of their projects, their own, not the teams, not the projects, their own created realities. And they can stem out of insecure mental states and or just be more objective. And so as a first exercise, I would like to think and share in the chat that I told you that we don't live in the circumstances, but you will say, yeah, but circumstances matter. If the project is late, of course, that's a stressful situation. And so, and I accept it. I accept it. I think that's the most common response. So I would like you to choose on a scale, a ponderation scale, where you think, well, reality is one of the factors and our mental building is another factor. How would you say the mental part interferes? Would you say that, no, it's all about the reality and our mental has no effect whatsoever? We're just living in the feeling of our circumstances. And if there is stress in the situation, I feel stress. And if there's no stress in the situation, I don't feel stress. So I have never been in a stressful situation with a clear mind, and I've never been with a really rather simple situation and with a stressful mind. Okay, so that would be 100 for 0. If you think, no, it's a bit about how we see. I mean, I was stressing out because my kid did something really simple and I went crazy. What's that about? And the other day he did that 10 times and I was kind of, hey, stop that. What's that about? There's no stability whatsoever. So maybe it's a bit my mental, or maybe it's 80-20, maybe it's 50-50. Maybe it's even more mental than reality. Maybe I'm Buddha. Okay, so please in the chat, just say my reality, I think is 80, my mental, I think is 20, or whatever is your own personal view and perspective on this. Let's just share in the chat. Oh, I think it's 80 real and 20 mind, or whatever, just for me to have an idea. So how would you? Okay, I like that, Danny. Okay, 40-60. Have good figures here. Okay, very cool. Now, in my experience, doesn't really matter where you are at the moment, and you have already been kind of induced by my speech, but if you look at this, you will move downwards, almost invariably, okay? I work with people bringing them downwards because the more they look at this, the more they see, wow, I was just so stressed. And then I realized I was stressed. And then the stress stopped. And I just look at the situation more clear. Huh, how interesting. It was not the situation, was it? Huh, someone is playing tricks on my mind. Oh, I'm playing tricks on reality. Huh, how can that be? And how can that help me as a leader? Because we're not here having an existential conversation. We're having a leadership conversation. So how can that be useful as a leader? And based on this idea that I think you'll want to stay with it and just see what's there to see, I would say that typically you will have two different states on this variability of your own processing power. And I like to call them Jack, the noisy one. She's very speedy and always very demanding. And, well, what do we have to do? What do we have to do? You know, the kind of guy that when we go on vacation, when we come from a very accelerated time and go on vacation, and said, okay, now we have to relax. Come on, relax, easy. How can we take the most out of this vacation? Quickly. I said, no, I just want to relax. I don't want to be stressed about relaxing. It's my weekend. I want to have no plans, No plans. What do you mean? We have to optimize the date. We have to optimize the time. You have to. So this is Jack. And it's really a pain about being very demanding ourselves. What are you doing? You have to be more disciplined. Come on, come on. Stay with this. This is a good idea. Just keep it. Be disciplined about it. And that this is our mental commentator of the game. Now, fortunately, we have another kind of very much in the flow guy. That's our nature. That's John. And John is just a more relaxed guy. It's really clear what's happening. He looks at the team and everybody's stressed, and you can see that there's someone detracting and there's someone a bit pressing, and it just brings some serenity so we can be crystal clear. You know, when you hear a Formula One driver and he says, well, it's all about focus and flow. I say, what do you mean? You're going 300 kilometers per hour. What do you mean? You have to feel the car. You have to be one with the car. You cannot be stressed. See, what do you mean? You're about to die in the next bend. It's just brake. Not yet. So what's that high performance about? Are the guys zen within a car that goes 300 kilometers per hour? What's that about? So this is the John state. The John state has a special radar where they really can listen to people. And I wanted to test this. Next time you're talking with one of your team members, just see if you are Jack or John. And to be able to see if you are John, you need to know that you are not trying to solve whatever they say. Saying, oh, I have this problem, need this, and before you commit to solving the problem, you just stop and you just hear, and hear for what they are saying, hear for where they are coming from, and hear what for their emotional state. And then just forget the operational part for a moment. He's presenting a problem. We have to get a solution. No. Wait. Let me just hear them. And so it's like when my mom calls and oh, I have a problem with the curtains, and then, oh, I'm going to send someone there, and she says, my mom, no, don't do that. Yes, I'm going to do solve this. No, just, and then I think again and say, there's no problem with the curtains. She's just feeling lonely. She wanted to talk. I didn't hear that. How silly was I? Just in my fixing mode, just fixing everything, fixing my life, fixing me, and then the life is going and we are fixing it, and then we're dead. And well, great life. It's like hosting a party at home, always worried about having everything in its place and getting the chairs and getting the plates and getting everything. And then, okay, let me enjoy the party. Oh, everybody's gone. And so if you want to bring a higher sensitivity to the table, you need to open up a part of you that's not a problem solver. And as engineers, that's really difficult to do. As technical people, that's not our style. And so team leaders in technical teams are typically missing a whole lane of information because they just don't hear it. They don't have bandwidth for that. They don't have the wavelength. They don't have the processing power. They are too much into fixing reality and fixing circumstances, and too little fixing mental states. And mental states, as psychological safety, are really huge in how the team will perform. And so if you are seduced for this, I think take a good look, because you may be missing a whole bunch of tools and information out of your operational approach. So if you have on your mind at the moment, Gonçalo, that's really interesting. How can I be more John more of the time? Does anyone have that question on their mind at the moment? Not really, more or less, yes. Yeah, John is all about awareness. So then I would say, where is the question coming from? Is it coming from John?
No, Jack.
Yeah, that should make us think a bit.
There are ways to try and come down to the present moment. Some breathing exercises and stuff I find useful, but it's not an easy task for sure.
Yeah. And even if we realize that John is who we are, then maybe there's not much to be done. Just something to be realized. You remember there's no spoon?
Exactly, but the problem is Jack is most of the time in the steering wheel.
Yeah, and you see, Thiago, if you can realize that fact for itself, I think you'll have maybe two options. So the first thing is, and I'm borrowing this from my last book. Can I reflect on my own mental state? That'll be a very, very important first step. Can I know that I'm Jack or John at the moment? Can I know? For example, I was coming here. I thought it would be at 3 o'clock. It was at 2. I'm super stressed, and I'm responding to people in a very hasty way. And I know I'm a Jack. So I kind of neglect any great conclusions I might have about who did what and if people behave correctly to prepare this and whatever. And I think I just forget that we have no state to have credibility on that. When you end the lecture, you'll just can think properly. Now you are not thinking properly. I don't trust you. And so I'm dismissing myself all the time when I feel, but I cannot dismiss my Jack all the time if I don't know he's running crazy. So if Jack is running crazy in a meeting with my team and I know it, I'll just go more silent as I can. And then I might even say, hey, guys, I'm not in a good state to make a comment here. I will be too corrosive and I'm not happy with the situation. And if I'm going to make a comment at the moment, I will regret later. And you will probably take it personally because I will do it purposefully, hurtfully. And so I will not comment. And they know, well, don't touch the guy because it's going to explode. And I know I'm going to explode, and that there's no benefit. And sometimes I explode because I know I'm going to explode, but I explode anyway. Okay. Now, first step, can you reflect on your own mental state? Do you know if you are having great perspective or if you are just going crazy within yourselves? The second thing is, do you have an opinion on that? Do you accept that you are being Jack, or are you jacking your Jack state? Oh my God, I'm Jack. I have to get out of the Jack states, and because Jack is not good, and I have to be better leader. And or are you just, I'm Jack. I probably will say stupid things. Good to know.
Yeah,
So
I would say accepting Jack is a lot easier than fighting it.
Oh. So because if you are fighting it, you are enhancing it.
Yep.
Jack is the fight.
Yep.
John is the peace. And if you want to really be good at it, you know that there are infinite layers of dissociation you can apply that I brought with this picture. There's always a place where I'm jacking. Oh, I'm jacking my jacking. Oh, I'm jacking my jacking. Oh my God, I can't get out of this. Oh my God, I think it's possible to get out of this. Oh well, what's for dinner? And then poof. Okay. So when you find yourself in a mental storm, and sorry for this being in Portuguese, but I didn't have time to translate it. I borrowed it from my book. Whatever mental tempest you're going through, there's always this space around it that's where the sun shines. like, you know, when you go in a flight. And John lives here. It says John lives here in always home. John is home. John is home. So when you have a leader that's truly inspiring, because he's home with himself, and there's something else he's seeing that nobody else is seeing, and it's really compelling. And then he says, wow, what a incredible storm. My God, my mind is going crazy. But no storm touches the limit of our conscious. There's always a space. And even because we have an expansive consciousness. And so I wanted to leave with this more kind of esoteric, but totally engineering-based neuroscience part, that is, you may be missing a whole bunch of information to engineer your way out of it on your leadership. And I will leave you with a rule, because I know you like rules. And the rule is, first, be really good at assessing your own state. Second, when you are in a noisy state with a lot of pressure of yourself, don't do silly stuff. It's difficult because that's where you think, I'm going to solve this once and for all, and this will never happen. And that's where then in the next day you will just collecting the pieces of a broken team. It's just silly. So if you are in that state, be suspicious. Is it, hey, I'm in that state where I really want to break everything. Should I break it? Maybe I will, because I can have a hand in myself. I'm going there. But do I really want to? Maybe just in case, maybe not too much. Third, the same for others. You are a leader. You have to know if they are Jack or John. You have to know if they are being crazy on a meeting, just to call a break and say, hey, just let us have a break. I need some coffee. And just go to the person and say, are you okay? Is everything going well? You said some strange things that I know you don't really, it's not what you're thinking. Yeah, but the guy just say is so annoying. And this guy said, okay, hey, why don't you take the day off? Just and that's being a human leader. That's being a human leader. And so when you know this, cut them some slack. They have the right to be on their own jackass day. They have their rights. Everybody has. Just if we don't take it seriously, there's no harm done. What's happening? Stack Overflow. Don't worry, it's fine. If you take that as a computing error, it's not really something we need to solve. It will sort itself out. So that's why I really like both expressions. First, it's not about you. It's not about you. People make it about themselves, as if the self is the most important things in their lives. The self is an idea, it doesn't even exist. Why do you take it so seriously? And the second one is that one. Don't take yourself so seriously. Don't take yourself so seriously. There's nothing good coming out of that. Just to finish, I think we need more human leaders. I think we need leaders that know better this stuff, this last stuff, this stuff of being human, of valuing existing in a happier way, in a more aligned way. Leaders that can really take people to have a bigger scope of their experience of being alive. And that bigger scope is contrary to jacking projects around. And so if you are crossing the square to get to the other side, you just will miss the birds, you'll miss the trees. You will miss your babies growing up. It will be just on your side while you are solving your life. So we are in a moment where generations need to think this again. Hey, think again. So it's not by chance that we are looking more and more software development companies bring the three Ps approach: people, planet, and profit. But it's not about profit anymore, or in most cases is not anymore only about profit. And so we need more human leaders. We need to take this into account. And I don't know what resonated with you in the last part. I thank you for your time. If you like to explore this further, please know that I have a presence in the LinkedIn. If you are interested about hearing about my world around the world trip on a motorbike, I have a book called New York, a book on time management for Portuguese readers, and a book called Reinvent for whoever is trying to reinvent themselves and be more self-realized. Mind for Time is the company that I own and where we do productivity consulting. I thank you so much for your time. If you can leave me feedback on the chat about what you're taking away from today, that will be most helpful. See you soon. Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Don't forget taking to homework, putting something in practice.
Thank you, Gonçalo.
Thank you so much.